Hi. Are you looking for a once human burn status build? Well, here's one for you to consider. This build uses the KVD Boom Boom LMG alongside the barbecue gloves for fast-ticking, high-damaging burns. Compared to other builds, it doesn't deal that high of a DPS, but it's versatile, less punishing to use, and has good ad clear, alongside great synergy with one particular deviation. Main weapon? KVD Boom Boom. Buyable from the Wish Machine for 8,000 Starkrum or drawn randomly. There is a specific category for the Boom Boom called Ignis Dissolution where you're guaranteed to get it alongside other BPs, so use that. This gun is a burn machine. Each shot has an 18% chance of inflicting a burn stack. Burn is a damage over time effect of 10% of your psi intensity every half a second for each stack, lasting 6 seconds. However, it has a max stack of 5. On average, you'll be shooting about 28 shots to apply the max 5 stacks, and since you have 100 rounds in the magazine, it's pretty easy to reach that cap and maintain it with this gun. The other perk is that killing burning enemies make them explode for 300% psi intensity. The radius is quite small, but the damage is good, usually one-shotting bunched up adds in one go. It also applies burn, potentially chaining the explosions. And then you get 30% blaze damage when you hold this gun, just like that. One problem with the KVD is that when you shoot, you can't see shit. Too many smokes and muzzle flashes going on, so for a fix, don't use reflex sights or holo sights. I use the prismatic sight, which elevates the reticle so much that the smokes and flashes don't bother you anymore. For accessories, prioritize accuracy first, then stability second. And for the calibrations on the gun, use rapid fire for faster stack buildup, and elemental damage substats. The key armor here is the barbecue gloves. The more stacks of burn an enemy has, the faster it takes that damage, up to 100% faster, doubling our burn damage at max stacks. At 5 stacks, it turns the rather bad 100% PI per second to a more possible 200% PI per second. For other pieces of armor, you gotta go with the Shelterer set. It's made for elemental builds. It synergizes well with guns with big magazines like the KVD, since you can build stacks up quickly and you rarely have to reload. Don't get the gloves, since that's where you'll be equipping the key armor. And think about whether you'll be using other elemental builds. The chest slot is for Frost Vortex and Unstable Bomber, and the head slot is for the Power Surge key armor. So, it's always safe to go for the mask, boots, and pants for the Shelterer. And the final piece? Up to you. For a secondary weapon, I recommend any bullseye weapon to give vulnerability to the boss. The Wildfire here is the simplest to use, so I went with that. Put Vulnerability Amplifier on it too for 16% damage vulnerability on the target. Speaking about mods, on the KVD itself you have options. Blaze Blessing heals you for 5% each time you kill a burning enemy. It's a small heal and it's not always easy to proc, but a heal is a heal. Use this for clearing strongholds and silos. Flame Resonance grants you 2 more max burn stacks for maximum DPS, but it reduces your duration, so it makes it harder to maintain your burn when you're not focusing fire on a boss. And you could lose that stack when you reload your gun. And then we have Embers, which makes you only lose half of your burn stacks instead of all of them when the duration expires. Since the normal maximum is 5, with this mod equipped, it will go down to 2 instead of 0. It helps you keep damaging the target for longer, even when you're not shooting at it. And it lets you build stacks back up faster when you're back to shooting it again. Personally, I like Embers best because it helps me maintain my stacks and I switch targets pretty often. For the rest of the mods, in substats, I'd recommend Elemental Damage, Status Damage, Burn or Blaze Damage, and Burn Trigger Chance, and then followed by Damage to Great Ones and Elite. Health is always good though. In the Helmet slot, use Deviation Expert. It's worth it, both the fire rate and status damage is huge here. Blaze Amplifier on the mask for more burn damage. For the chest piece, Quick Comeback is really good since the KVD has a long reload animation, and continuously firing is bound to get you hit from time to time. So letting your heals reload your gun is good. And stabbing yourself with a syringe does not count as a real reload, so you don't lose stacks on the Shelterer set bonus, or moss that reset on reloads. For pants, I go for a Precision Charge, where hitting weak spots increase elemental damage for your next magazine. For gloves, I just go for status damage. And for the boots, I go for Covered Advance. It's easy to maintain and it gives big damage. Yeah. For your cradle, simply go for the one that boosts LMGs and everything that buffs burn. You'll also want Master Tactician and Deviation Master when doing bosses. The rest is up to you. The main weakness here is that you can't do much burst damage at all with this build and you can't do high DPS. But he can. So, Pyro Dino is freaking amazing, and I believe the developers may have made burn weaker to compensate for having a deviation to directly synergize with, much like Vortex and Bounce. He shoots the enemy, gives them a debuff to take more fire damage and cause them to explode the next time they get burn procced on them. And let me tell you that these explosions destroy everyone. Treat Pyro Dino like a pocket nuke. He is unique in that he's a projectile deviation. He's not accurate or very smart at times, but he can target faraway enemies. Mark a target for him, let him shoot once or twice, proc burn on the enemy, and that enemy will probably die. Then you recall him back, let him regain energy, and do that again next time. This turns into a pretty fun summoning playstyle, where your deviation is more of a sidekick than a minion. But since most of your damage comes from him though, you are at risk of him acting stupid and shooting the sky, the ground, or wall, resulting in you losing 70% of your DPS in a boss fight, which happens more regularly than you think. Still, this build is capable of soloing pro silos without that much of a difficulty, sometimes topping damage in pro bosses and even prime wars. Sometimes it does get outperformed. I am not saying that this is the best build by any means. Its weakness is that since there is a maximum stack, its damage cap will be lower than builds that don't, like Power Surge, Bomber, and Shrapnel for example. You have this idiot with you though, so everything is okay in the end. Do keep in mind that the numbers shown here are after the 1.1 patch, where Deviation Master no longer buffs damage against the dummy. So with this damage, you'll get through most content in the game just fine. Except Forsaken Giant, that boss does not take status damage, screw that guy. Do like and subscribe if you want to see more like this. I'll be making a guide on how to farm a high level Pyro Dino soon, so until then, have a good day. Van signing out for now.